Firstly, well done for doing this. This is outstanding and inspiring.
Thank you.
Bear with me with this question. The working class. I feel like we've been neglected for many, many years. I feel like the Tories neglected us. I feel like Labour hate us. I think we're riddled with political snobbery. Yeah. You're a very educated man and handsome. Within Parliament, there's a contamination of snobbery in there. It's unescapable. It pollutes the corridors. Why have you dropped that contamination? Why do you stand with people like me?
So, you know, Liam, I don't know. I don't know why I do, but I love you guys. And yeah, no, but I do. And
We're honest.
when I think, forgive me, this is perhaps going to sound a bit childish, but when I think of the history of the United Kingdom, of course I think of our great generals, our great admirals, our great leaders, our prime ministers, Winston Churchill, Nelson, and so on. But I also think about all those brave soldiers, of one of whom was my grandfather, by the way, who they were the working class, the people who, the cheer that went up across the British fleet as we engaged Admiral Villeneuve's fleet at the Battle of Trafalgar. The cheer that went up when Nelson said, "England expects every man to do his duty." The cheer that went up from the working class. It was the working class who put their lives in danger during the Battle of Trafalgar, and then Waterloo, and then World War I, then World War II, and all the engagements we've had across the globe, many of the recent ones being ill-conceived. But it's the working class who step forward again and again and again for this country. And so, when I think of the working class, I do think of the massive contribution. I also think, because I'm in property, of all the great guys I've met on construction sites who build buildings and stuff. They're really good people. So, and the other thing, Liam, I have to say this. When I went into politics, I determined, rationally, that there's no point being in politics in a democratic country if you don't stand for the working and middle classes. They are the backbone of the country, they are the majority of the country. Sure, you need people to do well, and there will always be people who excel to a point where they're in a rarefied atmosphere and very wealthy, but the policies need to be made for the opportunities to be created for the working and middle class in this country. So I stand shoulder to shoulder with the working and middle classes of the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
Danica.
I'm one of your biggest fans, but today I have to say that young lady there, I didn't catch her name. I'm a retired teacher, and if I was still in teaching, she would be my star pupil. Position in this party, and I'm more than willing to help you. You are amazing.
Yeah. Okay, I've got a 15-minute warning. I thought we had masses of time. Anyway, gentleman with the blue cap.
This is quite a tough question, but since 1967, over 10 million babies have been sadly lost their lives through abortion. I'm unapologetically pro-life. I know there's many people in this room that agree with me, and there's probably many that disagree with me. When we look at the Great Replacement, mass immigration is a massive thing, especially illegal immigration. But what are we going to do to promote young women to have children And also, to do away with this terrible assisted suicide where vulnerable people are being pressured into taking their own lives.
So I'm very glad you asked that question, because there is a certain lady, Aileen Quinton, in the crowd, who is a member of the college, who said to me, Ben, one of your you should have a fifth mission statement, a fifth leg to your mission statement, which is family. And it's, of course, something I recognize. It isn't in the mission statement, but family is utterly critical. It's utterly critical for a number of reasons. Family is the smallest component part of a community. Community is a component part of society, and society is basically the nation state of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And so family is the building block on which we must promote, we need lots of building blocks of families. That wasn't very articulate, forgive me. But the way you do that is not by removing the cap on two-child benefit. You don't encourage those who are unable to afford to look after their children by allowing them to have children. You don't run a country on the principles which encourage both parents to work. You don't run a country on the principles which put economic progression ahead of the family. And I'll just illustrate this point. When I was a young man, if you got married, you got a marriage allowance. And what I think we've got to do is reward people so that when they get married, they again get that tax allowance. When they have babies, they get a tax break for every baby that they have. So it's the working class who get the tax breaks for procreating. And that if one parent should decide to stay at home, and that should be encouraged, they get a further tax break. This has... This has obviously the clear benefit of encouraging families to be families and to procreate. I call that basic policy bonking for Britain. And I imagine, not all policies have to be boring. So we can have a bonk for Britain. But the other really important thing here about the family, and it's something sinister that's taken place over the last few decades, is that in the pursuit of economic progression for themselves, spouses, parents, have basically had to both work, and they've handed their children over to the state. And I was horrified when, what was the name of the last Chancellor of the Exchequer with the Conservative Party? His name's gone. Jeremy Hunt. He came out with his leg genuinely had gone. That wasn't a joke. He came out in his last budget, one of his policies was that they would increase state aid for mothers with children as young as 9 months. That is horrific. You're stripping a child away from its parent so the parent can go to work. But if you have a policy for Bonk for Britain where one spouse can stay at home, then the children are brought up by their parents. For example, the need for the Online Safety Act, which is now being used to shut down freedom of speech, the need for it is lessened if you have a parent at home, because you've got a parent policing their children's behaviour. Everything comes right, and this is, by the way, what I mean about economic policy, constitutional policy, cultural policy, all having to work together. In the Bonk for Britain policy, we've touched on a number of different aspects in order to bring back families, bring back our communities, and bring back society. So I completely support the direction of travel in which you wish to go. I think we will have the policies for it. And before I finish, I just want to say, I think it is abominable that this Parliament has passed abortion effectively up to 9 months. It's absolutely abominable. And while I'm on that subject, it's equally abominable that they are about to pass a law which would allow the vulnerable and elderly to be put down. The Assisted Dying Act, when it becomes an act. It's actually an extraordinary thing. So I'll just say this and I'll go to the next question. It's an extraordinary thing that we abolish capital punishment where there was a judicial process where every opportunity was given to the criminal to find a way to justify not being put down. We've gone from abolishing capital punishment to a system where people can be put down without any judicial process. How hijacked have we become as a country? Right, next question. Gentleman there with the paper.
Yeah, hi Ben. I think we've got an amazing atmosphere here today. So my question relates to that. And it's what are we going to do with this atmosphere? Because you can lose this very, very quickly. And you mentioned in the end of your speech about how you're looking for people to put themselves forward for Parliament or maybe for council positions. But for most people here, we can't do that. So we're wondering, how can we help? And is there a structure in the party where we can actually work either within the party and also independently?
So
There's a lot of people here from the independent media that are doing a great job. But I think the party needs to have something internally where others of us can come in and
So the next big step for the party, we've now applied to the Electoral Commission for registration. I'll let you into a secret, though I haven't said this to anyone before. It's not much of a secret, but there's another entity. The day I declared we'd made 30,000 members, the next day another entity went to the Electoral Commission and applied as Advance UK. The next day, they're spoiler tactics. And I suspect it's not from the far left, that spoiler tactic. Anyway, once we get the electoral registration, the Electoral Commission registration, so we're a full political party, everything changes. Because at that point, we will be, and we're going to start this now, by the way, we're going to be campaigning locally. We've got to start that, folks. We've got to have volunteers who are prepared almost to treat as if the period between now and 2029 is a general election period. We have to get to the grassroots of the United Kingdom instantly, because the mainstream media is going to try and shut us down. We achieved our 30,000 members, by the way, over the heads of every mainstream media channel. We did it through podcasts, we did it through support of you lot, we did it through the support of Liam. Liam, actually, I think the interview. I mean, Liam grilled me for 2 hours, and I came out of the interview thinking, I wonder how that was. You know, it wasn't all right, but there was a lot of positive feedback, wasn't there?
Let me tell you, immense feedback. DMs were flooded on all platforms, and above all, the woman I respect and admire more than anybody in the world, my hero, the love of my life, my mother. I loved her.
Thank you. I love your mum. So what we need is volunteers to come forward and campaign, and we're going to start campaigning. So and the aim is, if our political foes are watching, the aim is that when the first poll is done, you know, YouGov poll or whatever is done, and Advance UK is included in it, that we hit the road with an impact. And then the political establishment, the political commentariat, they cannot ignore us, because we are there. Sorry, how am I doing? We've got 5 more. Syntax.
Just very quickly, sir.
Yeah.
Just one question. What do you plan to do about the benefits system, specifically universal credit? Because obviously we've seen so many people, especially migrants, that are abusing the system. I'm not sure if you're aware there was an Afghan migrant who came into the country and then went back on holiday using his universal credit to the country that he escaped from. So how do you plan to tackle that?
So there are 1.5 million foreigners in the United Kingdom on benefits, costing the country £10 billion a year. Why can't we pass a law? By the way, it doesn't have to go through the House of Lords, because this would be a finance issue. It doesn't have to go to the House of Lords. We should be able to pass a law instantly to stop the foreigners in this country getting benefits. No foreigners in the United Kingdom should get benefits. But we've got to break the dependence on benefits of the British people, you will be shocked, or perhaps you won't be, but I was shocked. There are 8 million people in this country surviving to a greater or lesser extent on universal credit. 1.5 million of those 8 million people are working. Every other member of that group is either not even looking for a job or is looking for a job and can't find one. And what are the causes of this? Well, it's an overreaching state, a state which has removed aspiration and replaced it with dependency. It's a state which champions wealth redistribution rather than wealth creation. It's a state which has imported millions, not lowly skilled migrants, but frankly entirely unskilled migrants, pulling the rug out from underneath the employment market so that we don't get wages going up in this country, so that you can't earn a fair wage. And because you've got a dependency culture that has taken root, the government is taxing those who are working, the working and middle classes, to the hilt. We have the highest tax take of any government since World War II. It's wartime levels of taxation. And so this comes back to the holistic approach that we need to take to sort the country's problems out. Migration needs to be brought down dramatically. Illegal migration needs to stop. Foreigners on benefits needs to stop. Taxes on working and middle class people need to be reduced. We need to allow wages to go up. We need to allow people to keep what they earn. We need to create a regulatory environment in which people can have the opportunities that through their own efforts will deliver for themselves and for their families. So after they bond, they can actually look after Johnny and Johnny and Jamie come to mind. I don't know why. Right, last question. Gentleman there with the tie and the hand up. Sorry, is there a lady there? Sorry, forgive me. Yeah.
We need to create 18 to 30-year-olds haven't moved, right? It's all right saying this, that, and the other about universal credit. You need to create jobs for kids. We need to get back to working for ourselves, not relying on overseas, right?
You're absolutely right, and I think one of the tragedies, and we'll all be familiar with this as well, one of the tragedies of the last 30, 40 years of governance has been that we've lost skill sets out of the economy. We've stopped being able to create things in this country. If you practice extreme ideologically based energy policies, and you effectively denude, and then you champion free trade globally. Trump is right. We need tariffs on certain countries. If you champion free global trade and you make it extremely expensive for British business, what you effectively achieve is the deindustrialization of the United Kingdom. And that is what we've done. And we've got to bring jobs back to the UK, and then we've got to train our young in the skills that are required to fulfill those jobs, not to go to Loughborough University and get a degree in media, but actually to do stuff that's useful. And I remember in the early 90s, this is no slight on the Irish, but I remember in the early 90s, in the 1989-91 recession, people used to say, you can't get an English plumber anymore, they're all Irish. It's because we lost the plumbing skill in this country. And the Irish now are not even plumbers. They've moved on. And we keep denuding skill sets. So we've got to have a focus on what the country needs. And that means we're going to have to do more basic functions domestically. Functions which are going to be critical, by the way, for the defense of this country as well. Like making steel. I know that wasn't your question, but it's an absolutely critical component.
Probably all of these flags have been made in China. How ironic is that?
That is very ironic. Right, one more gentleman with the tie and jacket. Yeah. It's all from Newcastle, I'm told. It's all from Newcastle. The flags are from Newcastle.
What are we going to do to stop digital ID before they use it again?
Okay, here's a pledge. Here's a pledge from Advance UK. Every single law and policy passed by this government will be reversed by Advance UK. much, ladies and gentlemen. I think there is lubrication. Lubrication. Before you vote for Britain, get some lubrication.